All right, welcome to another edition of Psoto Desperado plays Star Wars The Old Republic. Over here on Hoth, I'm going to figure out where to go. All right. Been pretty good, 57 out of 80. So that's not too bad. The last levels are the hardest ones to get, so that's why you want to try to do your main storyline as soon as possible. It really does help.
What's the forward base at sea?
Right.
What about? I thought you'd.
All right. Let's go ahead and see if we can start another video without this thing screwing up. Here we go. All right. Well, it's the one I saw last time already.
Breaking news, a man is in critical condition tonight after police say he was pushed onto the subway tracks as a train was pulling in. And Dave Carlin is live in Chelsea with that heart-stopping video, and we should warn our viewers, it is hard to watch. Dave.
Sorry. We do need to give you that warning because it is video that is causing people to shudder. We had horror inside this station with a push that was timed just as a train was pulling in. CBS News New York obtained this disturbing surveillance video showing a victim described by police as 45 years old standing on the platform when a man in a blue hooded jacket comes in from the left side of the screen, then out of view for a moment, and then back from the right side of the screen. With no apparent warning, he pushed.
I don't even want to show it. I can't show it. I'll link to the original video in the description of this video. And if you guys choose to, you can watch it for yourself. But I will tell you that you have to be very, very careful on what you take in, because I don't want you guys to be desensitized from this. And I don't want to have to go in and you know what I'm saying, console y'all from what y'all seeing. But I will just say that some people in this world are absolutely, positively demonic. In this scene, let me just describe it for you, alright? In this scene, because I don't like to show this type of stuff on the internet. You know, I don't even like to see it for myself, but as a content creator or a person that gets so much stuff that's sent to me on a regular basis, you know, sometimes even I have to see this stuff, and it's just absolutely horrific in my opinion. The train literally comes as he's being pushed onto the tracks. And I think that the worst part about it is nobody does anything. And everybody, I guess, I don't know if they just in shock or if they just, this is just New York City and people decide that they want to mind their business or whatever. Nobody like finds out or anything like that. It's just weird. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And so this is them interviewing a woman that is telling them and describing what's going on.
Horrible. I'm okay now.
Was he pushed right in front of a moving train?
Right at the last second, right in front of the train. Just shoved right in front of the train.
Police say they caught a man they are calling a person of interest.
The older man who was pushed just walked slowly right onto the platform, perfect timing. The other man who pushed him was...
I don't want to show it. I can't show it. And they show it a bunch of different times. Again, I'm being very careful about what it is that I show because I don't want people to be desensitized. But it's crazy.
Getting him out of there?
I did not. I came up to the street, called 911.
The downtown side of the 18th Street subway station at 7th Avenue was closed. So the train could be kept at the station so investigators could interview the train operator.
Things seem to have gotten a lot worse, and I'm just so sad that it happened today.
The game closed out.
The trains are running again right now, so that's back to where it usually is, and we talked to police about that person of interest, and we were told that that man is 23 years old. Now the victim, 45 years old, remains hospitalized in critical condition at Bellevue Hospital.
I will say that I think this is probably the fourth or fifth incident within as many weeks, probably within the last 2 to 3 weeks, of course, you know about the migrant that set the lady on fire and she burned to death right there in front of everybody. And instead of calling the cops for a lot of people, they just recorded it. And then on top of that, the migrant sat there and watched the person burn on the bench for a second before they wound up getting up. And then the person ain't even supposed to be in this country in the first place. And then you had like 3 or 4 other incidents of people basically being pushed on the tracks right when a train is coming. And I'm just going to tell you, bro, I think that it's demonic. I think that it's absolutely a spirit that's going on. A lot of people seem to be situationally unaware of their surroundings. They're not paying attention. They close to the platform. And this is all happening in New York City. You don't see this happening anywhere else. This is a city with over 8 million people that's inside of the city that you can count. But the ones that you can't even count and is undocumented, ain't no telling how many people is there, including all of the visitors and the people that visit that place on a regular basis. And you can't have this level of crime happening all over the city and no control over it. I know that the governor, Kathy Hochul, said that she was going to be deploying even more National Guards to present the idea of safety. But when you have a 23-year-old and migrants and people just pushing people on the tracks and burning people on the subway up, you know, I used to look at New York City as a rite of passage. If you going to visit the United States of America, or if you going to visit any place in the United States of America, you got to put New York City on the top of the list. Now, I can't even recommend it. I can't. This ain't the same New York that I visited. The same New York that I visited, it was a cultural mecca. We played chess in a park. I made sure that I caught the subway everywhere that I went because I automatically knew. As a matter of fact, one of the times that I flew into New York City, and I visited New York City multiple times, probably like 6 or 7 times. One of the times that I visited New York City, I actually flew into Jersey, into Newark, I believe, and then caught multiple different trains, and it was so crazy the first time that I did it because I had to figure out how to get through the subways, how to read everything. And then once I figured it out and I got used to it, and I also used Google Maps to help me and assist me, that's the hack. I was able to basically get anywhere. I went to Queens, I went through Brooklyn, I stayed in Manhattan. Obviously, I flew into Newark and then caught the train. I think it was like less than an hour for me to fly into Jersey, and then it was cheaper for me to fly into Jersey at the time. And then I caught the train down to Manhattan. And then, you know, the hotel rooms were smaller. It was just a different cultural experience, but I very much enjoyed it. Not a place that I think that I could raise a kid in or live in long term, but it was phenomenal to visit, and I love to visit and go back and then do all of the shopping and experiences, and there's so much stuff to get into. And it don't matter what time of the day or night, it's always something to do in New York City. It never sleeps. But now it seems like, I don't know if it was a combination of the migrants coming there and bad policing and all of this stuff, and you got corruption within the police department, and the city chief, the New York police department chief is now retired, and all of this stuff. It seems like everything has devolved so much to where it's no longer even promoted as being safe. And when you are basically the Mecca of the United States of America, when you are basically the unofficial capital of the United States of America, and you have millions of visitors that's coming there every single year to experience the culture of what New York City is, at the very least, you have to present it as safe. And it doesn't seem like it's even remotely close to being safe.
People set on fire is not safe.
Every day, it seems like it's being pushed onto these platforms. And it's bad, it's horrible, it's bad for the culture, it's bad for the city, and it puts a black eye on everything that the city is doing. And I feel sorry for that person. And they didn't even pass. They still in critical condition inside of the hospital. What a way to go. What a freaking way to go. Y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, teach handling, 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you guys later. Peace.
You're not carrying a kitchen. A kitten. Oh, you need a kitten for that. Huh? Here's a kitten. I guess I need to get more kittens. I guess you got to put the kitten in the crate. Oh, this is one of those little... They put extra missions there. It won't let me do it. I don't understand. How come I'm not carrying a fucking kitten, man? I don't understand. I might just say fuck it. Now, I don't know.
When they start.
Yeah, that's that mission. I tried to do the kitten mission. It wouldn't let me put the missions. It wouldn't let me put the kittens in the box. What the fuck? Bug.
It worked! With communication. How far? I'll go track.
Okay. I wish I did more damage, man. I just don't feel like I'm doing a lot of damage with that. Anyway, sorry, I got into the story. When I get going, I get going. Let's see if we can get another video started. As you saw, I just logged back in. Fuck it, you know. If that happens again, I'll just log back in again. Oh, that's funny.
So Costco apparently...
This is Osmo Gold TV. Says Costco fights to keep its DEI policies. Was it something equity and inclusion?
Apparently is trying to keep their DEI program. Can we watch anime? I wish. That'd be great if I could do that. Yeah, if only.
2024 may go down as the year that destroyed DEI. Major businesses and universities, a lot of them, are rolling back or scrapping their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. Walmart, Harley-Davidson, Lowe's, Ford, Starbucks, Google, the list goes on. And that trend expected to continue in Trump's second term.
President Trump is certainly going to make sure that his administration gets out of the quota business and gets focused on making sure that our corporations are about productivity. We've seen whether it's John Deere or Tractor Supply, all the way to Walmart, which is one of the highest, if not...
In my opinion, I think they should hold people legally liable. If you're found to have hired people or making or have made hiring decisions based off of something that's not merit, like you're hiring a person based off of discriminatory reasons, I think there should be a fine or like liability for that. It's really just that simple. Won't ever happen, but agreed.
The highest
never say never.
Company in the world making a decision to move away.
It's hard to prove. I feel like it's not. In this case, it's not hard to prove because that's when they're defining it. Like it's not like they're stating this openly, right? It's not like it's some kind of secret. It's easy to prove. Yeah, they're talking about it. They're advertising it. They're self-reporting. Yeah, exactly.
One major company is actually bucking the trend towards merit-based. Big box store Costco pushing back against the changes so many others are now making. The Board of Trustees is urging shareholders to vote against a measure that would scrap its DEI program. And they write, quote, "Our efforts at diversity, equity, and inclusion remind and reinforce with everyone at our company of the importance of creating opportunities for all. We believe that these efforts enhance our capacity to attract and retain employees who will help our business succeed." Jason Chaffetz, Fox News contributor and former Utah congressman, joining me now to talk about this. So, Jason, it looks like everybody else kind of got the wake up in November and realized that people don't like this and people don't want to be told what to do, except for perhaps Costco. Do you think Costco will also just change its mind in the next new year when they realize that they're going to be left behind?
I don't think that they're going to change their mind at all. I think that this is like, if this is something they want to do, then that's up to them. But the reality is that if you're hiring people for things that are based off of like immutable characteristics, you're fundamentally practicing discrimination. So, in my opinion, I don't think anybody should do this because I think it should be illegal. And in fact, I think it is illegal. If you're... Yeah, what a stunner. Yeah, exactly, right? And so, like, in my opinion, if people don't want to get rid of this themselves, then hold them liable. They won't see it that way. Well, there's people that think 2 + 2 is 5, but that doesn't make them right.
Well, the American people are voting with their wallets. And if they don't provide a good product, a good service, and darn good hot dogs like I like, then, you know, people will walk away. But look, they're a very profitable and very good company. But they also, if you really dice down and look at their statement, look, if they have a diverse workforce, more power to them. What I want to make sure that they're doing is providing products and services, not pushing a political agenda, but I think as the employees there at Costco, they want to make sure that they can progress in their jobs based on merit, not on skin color, not on some other diversity, equity, and inclusion metric.
Yeah, I think that's what needs to happen, is like people that are doing that need to be held liable criminally. Or not criminally, but like by a court. Because if a person gets passed over for a promotion or like an advantage at a company because they're not part of an identity group, well, then that's discrimination and that's illegal. So somebody needs to get in trouble. It's literally, it's actually, isn't it just that simple? I feel like it is. How do you want to prove that?
Your base has been destroyed. You are stranded.
Well, what do you mean? How do you prove that? I mean, you prove it the way that you prove any other form of discrimination, right?
Don't be offended.
Of course.
You can't.
What do you mean? Like, yeah, that's the whole reason.
Go.
based on merit. And as long as they're doing that, then they'll succeed like these other companies. And some of these others have been pushing products on the American people that are highly offensive. And you don't want to go in your store and see their political agendas shoved in your face.
If this
That's where
Target had that
pushed
problem.
back on a lot of these companies.
You know, it's been interesting to watch in the last month here, a couple of weeks here since the election.
Yeah, it definitely is. Tired of these intellectually dishonest people saying people want to advance based on merit, not skin color, because it's the same crowd of people that are basically anti-immigrant racists. Does anybody really believe that? I don't think that that works, man. And I know that some people use that form of, like, argumentation, but I don't think that that's convincing. I don't think anybody believes that. Yeah, that's clearly not what's going on. It's a dumb chatter alert. It's what I said before, right? You know, intentionally misunderstand in order to pretend like there's a double standard.
Is sort of soul searching within the Democratic Party as they try to find their new message, their new messenger, you could say. There are some Democrats that are now trying to lean a little bit more towards the independent movement, at least questioning the messaging that they've been pushing here. Democratic Congresswoman here is urging her party to stand up to push back against DEI initiatives. Let's listen to this.
Need a platform with those individuals from the top-down officers who are pledging that they will be inclusive. I think that we have to make sure that people do not abandon diversity and equity. We can't have a party that's one-sided, and that's not just race and gender and ethnicity. It is thought. It is demographics, and I plan to be a part and work with anybody that won't close out people.
So that's Joyce Beatty. Does that surprise you coming from her?
Look, if she's being thoughtful and wants to have an honest discussion with people who have maybe a different political perspective, more power to her. I think that's great. I think there are arguments to be had on both sides. I think what America is saying, though, and the reason these companies are shutting down their DEI initiatives is that, A, it's very costly. It doesn't produce...
I think that the reason why the companies are shutting them down is they're worried about getting in trouble. I think the probability of Trump or Elon Musk or somebody in, like, their government or J.D. Vance actually just deciding, you know what, you're doing this, it's clearly discrimination, we're going to crucify you. I think they're afraid of that happening. And I think really with somebody like Trump, can you imagine a company that, like, just for some reason makes Trump mad? A CEO makes a negative comment towards Trump, Trump immediately fucking goes in on that. Absolutely. Yeah, I like, really. I mean, 100% this would happen. They'll get called out? Yeah.
Better product. And they're bypassing a lot of people who, based on merit, are more qualified to do things. And so, if we want to become a country who's less racist, then let's be less racist. Let's get rid of the affirmative action out there and say, you know
They're
what?
quietly
If
consuming.
you're the best person for that job, doing the
in
best
some cases, you're
that
probably
you
right.
possibly can, then that's the person that should get the job.
Yeah.
And that's where I think America has come to as a whole. Not everybody agrees with it, but I think in mass you see these big companies recognizing, and these universities too. Some of these universities, like the University of Virginia, which I love,
I saw something about that
it's a
recently.
great school. But they spend millions of dollars on these initiatives that don't make the education better. I would argue that it actually makes it worse.
Yeah, I think those universities have a lot of looking inside and trying to figure out what their future holds. As we saw this past year, a lot of people, families at home thinking, I don't know if my kid needs to go get that higher education degree, that university, with some of the stuff that we saw this past year. Jason Chaffetz, thank you for
joining us. I think that if you are so afraid of your kid being brainwashed and being stupid, I think it says more about you. Like, my parents never cared what I read or what I looked at or anything because they just trusted me to make a good decision. Yeah, that's always how it was.
Joining us, appreciate it.
You want to read Communist Manifesto? Go ahead. You want to read some other crazy shit?
Everyone,
go ahead.
I'm Emily
read the Quran. Go ahead.
Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every
It's not good
weekday.
parenting. I think it's the opposite. I think it is good parenting because if you try to protect somebody from something, the moment that they're not protected, they won't be willing to. Like you build up a resistance over time. I think you build up a very big resistance over time to kind of like bullshit. And I think that if you protect people from building up that resistance when they're young, they don't have that residual buildup for when they become adults and they get thrust into it no matter what. There's like a certain, but you're smarter than average? No, I don't think I'm really that smart or anything. No, I mean, not really. I mean, I can come up with solutions to things sometimes, but that's about it. I mean, I'm not the kind of person, like, I don't go and, like, think of myself as, like, above other people or anything like that. So, yeah, it's just... no, I mean, I think that I have very good memory and I can remember a lot of things and like put things together because of that. But is that like really intelligence? Not necessarily. So I don't think about it on that way. And it does seem like they're getting rid of this in universities too, by the way.
It's disappointing. It's sad.
She teaches gender studies and social justice courses and says she's seen a spike in student interest.
We've seen our majors grow, and in fact, social justice was one of the fastest growing majors of the units that are being sort of restructured in the new school of social and cultural analysis. Yep. So it is, again, disappointing because it's clear that the students want these courses.
Rio also says students who've gone through the programs are contributing to Iowa's workforce.
Well, they're shutting them down. That's it. And Gender Studies Professor at Psoto University of Iowa declares they're closing an entire gender department. That's nuts. That's a huge fucking change. Holy shit. Yeah, wow. And there you go. A bunch of PC principals out there. Well, there's one of them, right? There you go. And imagine having 120K debt for social justice major. How does that generate value or money? How does that benefit anything other than thought? I actually think that it's good for a university. Like, I think that the goal of a university should not necessarily be to create jobs at all. Are there any definitive stats on the effect of affirmative action? I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of them. But, like, what? Well, let me finish it, right? So, like, here's a good example. I think that we can all agree that somebody getting a job in, let's say, what's a good example of this? Getting a good job in engineering is something that's more beneficial to society than somebody getting a degree in engineering is more beneficial than getting a degree in philosophy. But I think the goal of education does not always have to be for the means of creating a tangible value in like a society, right? Like it's not about, how many wheels can you make or, like how many forks can you produce. So I think that if you want to go to college and, use college as a way to further your knowledge and to expand the scope of human understanding, I think that's a good thing. It is, and I don't think it's bad at all. I don't think it should be funded. Like, they should not all be funded equally. Right? I mean, like, it does when it costs $250K. Yeah, but it's their money, right? If people want to spend their money on it, that's fine. So, yeah, what jobs can you get with gender studies? What I'm saying is it's not about getting a job. The purpose of college isn't about getting a job. It's about educating yourself. And a lot of people educate themselves in the purpose of getting a job, but it's not necessarily like that. And I think that there's nothing wrong with, pursuing a life of education. I think that's a good thing. I mean, think about how many things are worse than that.
Dealing drugs. Dealing drugs is worse than that. Anyway.
Trump is going to deport 13 million people. That's an ass load of people.
$315 billion.
I think I saw this one already.
That's one staggering cost estimate for Donald Trump's signature campaign promise.
The largest domestic deportation operation in American history.
I think people would support that. Even knowing how much it costs, I think that a lot of his supporters would be in favor of that.
Conservative estimates are still enormous. One group puts it at $162 billion.
It's not
That's
so
more
bad.
than the government spent on most federal agencies in fiscal year 2024.
Yeah, again, that's what a lot of people, yeah, exactly, get rid of those and deport people instead. Yeah, that's what I think people want.
Explain why an operation of this scale could require hundreds of billions of dollars over the course of a decade.
Is it your plan to deport everyone who is here illegally over the next 4 years?
Well, I think you have to do it, and it's a very tough thing to do.
That means roughly 13 million immigrants who entered the country illegally are at risk of deportation.
That's right.
About 4% of the U.S. population.
Oh.
To put that into perspective, the entire U.S. prison and jail population in 2022 was around 1.9 million people.
Scale is difficult for the government to carry out.
I'm going to be really shocked if they can actually deport that many people. I think what's going to end up happening is that they're going to deport, they're obviously going to do priority deportations, right? Where they're not going to immediately start deporting grandmas that have been here for 50 years. They're going to probably start deporting people that are, young people that have committed crimes. I will be shocked if they end up deporting everybody. Yeah, gang members, basically, and that's what you would want them to do, right? Like any logical person would say, okay, focus on solve the biggest problems first, obviously.
Tim Melnick is a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council, a liberal immigration group.
Trump would have to do more than quadruple current ICE removals of people arrested in the interior just to hit the levels that we've seen previously under Obama.
I think you take a sequential approach to it. You start with what's achievable. Let's start with 1 million.
The details of the plan are still being worked out.
He's right. That's the right way to go about it.
But let's say Trump does decide to deport 1 million people a year. That could still cost about $88 billion annually and take 11 years, according to one estimate. And that's assuming 20% of people would leave on their own.
Yes, it's expensive, but the trade-offs, I think, are well worth it.
Ron Vitello led the...
I think that if you interviewed the majority of people that are like Trump supporters, I think that they would overwhelmingly support them. I'm just making this up, right? But if this is my temperature check, I think that almost all of them would support that, even if the cost was astronomical.
The Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, known as ICE, for a year in Trump's first term.
Right now, the government is underfunded for its ability to detain people to be able to accomplish this and the border mission simultaneously. Will require a reallocation, if not an infusion for resources.
Other immigration experts say the actual cost of Trump's mass deportation plan will be much lower than the American Immigration Council's estimate of $315 billion.
A more robust enforcement
Well, it would be logical that their interpretation of how much it would cost would be higher because they're probably in favor of some degree of illegal immigration if they're a liberal mindset. I think that that's generally how the party lines are for these different topics. So it would logically make sense that they would come up with a higher number because a higher number would make the plan seem less feasible. So I wouldn't necessarily trust that number to begin with.
Contemplating that may create significant economies of scale.
Stephen Camarata is the director of research at the Center for Immigration Studies, a group favoring immigration restrictions that helped staff Trump's first term.
Once you start doing it and you get an infrastructure in place, then it might be a lot cheaper.
Deportation starts with arrest.
He brings up a good point that a lot of it is getting the system started and the cost of doing that. And that system start cost is kind of a fixed cost that's amortized across all of the amount of effort that's going to be put into it.
A targeted arrest. We'll know who we're going to arrest, where we're most likely to find them based on numerous investigative processes.
We're starting with the criminals, and we got to do it. And then we're starting with others.
Trump says dreamers, or people who entered the U.S. illegally as children, might be an exception. To make arrests, ICE officers would either identify someone who's already in a jail or prison, or go to a person's home.
Yeah, of course.
The majority of undocumented immigrants are not in law enforcement custody. Most of them have never committed any offenses.
Arresting people out in the community, known as at-large arrests, isn't a common tactic for ICE. Vitello says it's more...
I think that's what people want to change. Because they don't think that it's proactive enough. Yeah, why are these super-ranking guys so stupid? I don't think they're stupid. Yeah. They committed an offense when they came here illegally. Well, what he's saying is that they never got arrested by the police.
Return to your post. More logistically complicated and more expensive, but it's at the center of the Trump administration.
Because, like, the police have, like, this is stupid, right? But the police, there are, like, the known illegals and the unknown illegals. Where it's like, by the nature of some people entering the country illegally, they are, in fact, undocumented. So it's hard to quantify how many people there are. And so you have that factor, but there's also people that they do have a number and like, yeah, this person is here illegally, and there's like a process for getting rid of them. So like it's both things.
What the jet think?
I'm not concerned that they won't be able to find them. It's just a matter of time given the circumstances, given the availability of information, and given the resources in play.
At-large arrests often require multiple federal agents and take several days because ICE officers don't generally have warrants.
Immigration violations are not criminal, which means that a judicial warrant to arrest them would not have probable cause. They might have to wait hours for the person to leave their house. They might have to stake out a work site.
To carry out arrests at this scale, the American Immigration Council estimates ICE would need to hire over 30,000 new law enforcement agents and staff, making it the largest law enforcement agency in the federal government.
That's a lot.
Vitello says this number is overstated, and that state and local law enforcement could be directed via task forces to help with at-large arrests.
I think a lot of people would sign up to do it too. Yeah, I do. I actually think that a lot of the media vastly underestimates how many people just want to get the illegal immigrants out of the fucking country. I don't think that they really care if you're a dreamer, if you're, a criminal. I don't think that most people really give a shit at this point. I think maybe if you looked at this issue in 2020 or like 2016, people probably did care more, or at least they pretended to care. I think now they don't. Yeah, get them out. Yeah, get them out. That's it. Literal Nazis. I don't think deporting people for being in a country illegally is being a Nazi. I think that you do a disservice to actual Nazis by comparing the two things. You're making them seem like this is like just a difference of opinion. It's the opposite of Nazi. Yeah, it's very, very dangerous. You shouldn't be saying that.
Reminder. Mechanized travel.
They already do.
Having that referral system, having state and locals help ICE officers do their job.
Somebody says, what are they going to do? Who are they going to blame their problems on when brown people are gone? Ask Kanye West.
Ooh. Better to have it than not, but not definitive in whether they do the work or not.
Then there's detention, the most expensive part of the whole process. It costs around $200 a day to hold someone in ICE custody. Congress has provided enough funding for at least 41,500 detention beds in fiscal year 2025. But that's not nearly enough to detain 1 million people a year.
People say such childlike thinking. You realize like Jews have been scapegoated by like, 109 countries have like expelled Jews? Like, you can say it's childlike thinking, but like, yeah, no, that's what's going to happen. After they get rid of the illegals, they're going to blame everything on the Jews. They're already doing it. That's what's going to happen.
According to the American Immigration Council, ICE would need to construct 216 soft-sided facilities every year for 11 years.
That's a lot.
Soft-sided facilities are temporary tent-like structures that have typically been used near the border.
Yeah.
Anyone not physically detained would be placed on electronic surveillance, which costs approximately $4 per person per day. Private contractors involved in every stage of the detention process could drive up prices even more.
Contractors drive people in between ICE detention centers or drive the vans after somebody's arrested.
Detaining children would also make this process more expensive.
I don't want to be breaking up families, so the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Family.
Oh, man. Oh, boy. Wild? Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As I said, I think this issue and the amount, like, the level of radicalization people have displayed on this issue, I think is really indicative of what's to come. I think it is. I'm not mad. Bye-bye. Yeah, I actually think that, like, if you go and you read the comments on this, let me see what the $2 trillion spent in Afghanistan. How does it cost $200 to keep somebody in a cage? This will be a huge cash grab for private contractors. Why does Trump need any funding at all? Let the employers who break federal law pay for it. The government's not overfunded, it's overspending. Imagine creating a problem so big it'll be too expensive to fix. Almost all of these comments are agreeing. They're almost all positive.
Detention is the most expensive kind of detention because the U.S. government is required to give people minimum standards, and those children need to have child welfare professionals on site. They need to have pediatricians on site. There needs to be a provision for them to get schooling if they are going to be held for months or potentially years at a time.
Vitello says one way the government could reduce costs is by repurposing existing...
I've got a feeling that there are a lot of people out there that don't think that's as important as he does. I've got a feeling. Yep.
Detention centers like Guantanamo Bay.
A third country like a Panama, potentially Mexico, could agree to hold third country nationals so that their due process could be adjudicated, thereby lowering the costs and kind of sending a message down the pipeline that people are not going to be released into the United States to await those adjudications. That alone will reduce the number of individuals trying to cross the border illegally.
Camerata says there are over 1 million immigrants who could be detained at a much lower cost.
There are people with a final order of removal that we just never made leave. Those individuals shouldn't have to be held long. We can get them out.
That's obviously what they're going to do. They're going to. Obviously you go for the low-hanging fruit. I mean, duh. It's the same. It's the same with anything, right?
Very quickly.
After detention comes legal processing, which immigration law experts say is the biggest bottleneck in the mass deportation process. An additional 10.6 million cases would require nearly 2,000 more immigration judges and over 1,100 more courtrooms.
There is not only a cost in the immigration court side, but there's also a cost in the ICE side in getting these new prosecutors online. You need support staff for the judges, judicial law clerks, secretaries.
Staffing on...
I don't think that a lot of people care about that as much, and I think that they'll probably end up skipping a lot of that, and nobody's going to give a shit. Yeah, they will wave that away. Yeah, they just won't do it. And this is effectively a really good example of this happening was El Salvador. My understanding, and I apologize in advance if I'm misunderstanding this, but that's my understanding of how Bukele, I don't know how to say his name, dealt with this problem. Is that he basically waived a lot of those rights for the people that were committing crimes and put them all in jail.
Both sides leads each case to cost over $2,500. To set up new courtrooms quickly, the government would likely construct tent courts, like those built in 2019 to implement the migrant protection protocols. This was when immigrants living in the U.S. illegally were returned to Mexico to wait for the duration of their court proceedings. They went to tent courts near the border to virtually appear in front of judges.
You could do those hearings much faster, logistically get more judges and more hearings heard in a day.
As with finding new efficiencies in the detention space, that is another thing that has its limits.
Tent-style courtrooms in Laredo, Texas, cost about $16 million to build and $143 million annually.
This is my opinion about this. We spend $1 trillion on anything. So when I see numbers like this, and I'm being told that this isn't possible, how many billion dollars are we spending on foreign aid to random fucking countries? Stop doing that. Just stop it. Unless we're legally obligated through NATO or something, stop doing it. Yeah, it's rookie numbers. Yeah, trillions of dollars. Yeah, what are we talking about here? And I think this is a viewpoint that I actually think most people have. I think most people view it as wasteful.
Operate. once a person receives a final removal order, they have to either report for deportation at a later date or wait in detention until then.
At that point, the U.S. government has to actually arrange the removal. That would involve putting them on a bus and sending them to Mexico. But if they're from any other country, other than Canada, that means putting them on a plane and flying them to their ultimate destination.
An operation of this scale could require over 6,000 removal flights per year. For comparison, ICE had around 1,200 removal flights in fiscal year 2023. The average ICE removal flight costs about $17,000 per hour. This number could go up if private contractors who provide ICE with planes and pilots raise their prices.
But there are other assets, right? ICE has it.
I do think also the government should try to recoup these costs by fining the companies that have been hiring these people. Because, like, really it takes two to tango. And in a lot of cases, the reason why these people exist in the United States and they're basically just, like, you know, able to, like, make money is because companies and individuals pay them under the table. And so, like, really, who should be paying for this? Well, it should be the companies that willingly hire people and knowingly hire people that are here illegally. It's that simple. NATO's obsolete. Well, I mean, personally, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think NATO's important, but that's, again, it's not really the issue. I don't want to debate that. You know, everybody's going to have different viewpoints. That's whatever, right? It's totally different. But I do think, yeah, you should find, and also find the individual immigrants. Yeah, you're right. Like, if they have bank accounts and, like, they have money here, get that money. Absolutely. Fuck that. Yeah, if they're coming here, spending, you know, making money here illegally, then get that money too. It's not even a question.
Number of its own aircraft that are already
yeah.
in service today. The Justice Department, the Marshal Service, has their own transportation aircraft.
Yeah.
The scale-up need could come from the military.
Trump told NBC News in November that there is no price tag for his plan. Camerata says...
I think that's what people want. Or at least, like, the ones that agree with them, right? There's people who think this is bad, but, like, the ones that agree with them, I don't think that they care about the price.
Cost will likely be spread out over several years because it would be impractical to deport even 1 million people a year, let alone all 13 million in a single one-time operation.
In this case, it's probably hyperbole. What I think he's trying to do is tell everyone, when I take over, the immigration law is going to be back in business. And I think it's going to have a big effect, and then it's going to be up to the public to judge whether he kept his word.
But getting enough funding from Congress will be crucial for an operation of this.
I think what's going to happen is that he is probably going to get, like, maybe 20% or 30% of them. And it's probably going to be a lot of the problem people. And then the rest of them probably, it depends on what happens, like who gets elected after Trump, right? And so, like, if somebody like Trump gets reelected again, then you'll see more of them get deported. If they don't, then you won't see more of them get deported, right? I think it's really just that simple. Yeah, cost of keeping them a year is more. Cheaper to send them home. It's a vital point being ignored. Oh, yeah, no doubt. But you have to keep them here because they, like, you have to figure out, like, legally whether they're here, like, illegally or not, right? You can't just, like, shoot first and ask questions later. Like, you go deport them and then you figure out whether you should have deported them or not. Seems like kind of a problem. Third term, let's go. I mean, we'll see what happens, right? I mean, there's a chance that you know, the Trump presidency shits the bed, and it's a huge problem. And then, like, you know, we have some bad situation happen. Who knows what happens? And then, you know, there's, like, no way a Republican wins in 2028. Yeah, it will be. Well, I'm saying, like, it's very possible that this could happen.
Magnitude. Senate Republicans have said that passing a border funding bill will be the top priority next year.
Border security, more bed spaces so you don't have to release people that shouldn't be released, and more ICE agents to deport people who represent a threat to our country and shouldn't be here to begin with.
Republicans control both chambers of Congress next term, but it's a narrow majority, making spending on this scale no guarantee.
To my Democratic friends, I think if you resist rational deportation policy, you do so at your own peril.
I actually think he's right. And I think that what he said isn't actually accurate entirely, or it's not telling the full picture. I think that if you resist rational deportation policy, you will then get irrational deportation policy. And I think that like that's really where things are going, and that's what I think is going to happen. Only the rich stems well, I don't know, but I think that's what it is, and that's why I think a lot of people are so extreme about it now. Is that I think people are tired of being called like like somebody said, like it's like you're a Nazi, right, for like wanting to deport an illegal immigrant. I think that like somebody hears that and they're like, I don't want to be called a Nazi. That's stupid. And so I'm just going to vote against you, right? I don't think people like that type of emotional blackmail. And it's what really causes a lot of people to push back on it. So, yeah. I have a feeling, what's this, deport the Democrats? Problem solved. Yeah, there we go. And where's the rationality in sending your country into a depression? Because that's what's going to happen. Finance have worked out the numbers again and again. I don't think that I feel like if you have a country that requires a indentured servant slave class in order to exist, you need to figure out a better way of doing business and running an economy. That's really the truth. I mean, I don't think that that's a good thing. And this has been, it's kind of like the same perspective that I have with like the HB1 visas, is that if you rely on an underclass of people that have less protections, less rights, and are being paid less money, and the entire premise of the business model is built around taking advantage of that, what you have is a fundamentally predatory economy. And I don't think that that is a morally good thing. I don't think it's good at all in any capacity. So, yeah, that's what I think about it. I mean, I don't really think that's a good argument. I think it's actually a very bad argument. And also, like, and this is something that's, like, not really discussed a lot, is that a lot of the people who are illegal immigrants, they get taken advantage of in a lot of big ways. And, it's like if they get shortchanged, they don't get paid enough money, they're not being paid fairly, what do they go and do about it? Like, they can't go to the police, they can't sue the person, they can't do anything. So they're in a massive, there's like a massive power imbalance there. And I think that that's something that a lot of people need to realize. They can't get proper medical treatment? Yeah, exactly. Right? But they can get charged too? Yeah, no doubt. But no more rights for H1B1? Yeah, there's the video, by the way. And so basically what I mean by that is like no more rights is that, so a person, and I could be wrong about this, right? And so correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if you have one of those visas, if you leave that job, you put your visa at risk and you can get sent back. Is that correct? Yeah, of course, right? Of course, that makes sense. And so basically what happens is that if you have that, you can't change the job. Yeah, exactly, right? What ends up happening is that gives the company an extra level of control and a distortion of what the normal relationship with the company would have with an employee. So like with an American citizen, you don't have this extra layer of fear of getting deported from the entire country because you leave the job. So logically, a company could treat a person who's on one of these visas worse because that person has more to lose if they say no. You see what I'm saying? I feel like a lot of that makes sense. If you choose to go somewhere else, you have to have the company that you're going for be your new sponsor. Yeah. So it's modern slavery. It's not slavery. It's just a distorted power structure, and it's not healthy for these people, right? To say that it's slavery, no, it's not really slavery, but it's just it's a distorted and asymmetrical power balance between the people that are seeking out these jobs and the companies that are providing them. And it provides an incentive for companies to take advantage of people. And if you're taking advantage of like Indians or, Chinese people or, I don't know, people in Malaysia, whoever's coming over from like H-1B visas, that's bad, right? Because those are still people. It's the same as the illegal immigrants here. Like, these are people that are being taken advantage of. And so, like, effectively by allowing it to happen, you create an underclass of people that are prime for exploitation in a bunch of different ways. Not just one way, but a bunch of different ways. So, yeah, I'll look at a few more. You just described slavery. They're not slaves. They're just not. I mean, like, I understand, like, it's just not. Like, it's just, I don't know why people have, like, this huge problem with, like, the emotional weight of vocabulary, and they can't think about things logically. It's just simply not slavery. It's the same thing I said about terrorism, right? It's like these like emotional vocabulary hyperbole words like Nazi, slavery, terrorism. Well, let's just try to look at, yeah, it's extremist language. Yeah, it's very crazy. Helping a child, yeah, people think hyperbole equals reality. I think that people create the hyperbole in order to try to back people down from positions because they're afraid of trying to, you know, like being part of that hyperbole. That's what I think it is. It's a half step from slavery. It's not anywhere close to slavery, but it's worse than what we have for average employers here, or employees. Google H-1B requirements, what you're describing is already illegal. Biden, DOJ. I'd have to look and see for myself. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you'd have to give me a better example than that. Got ban appeals in their hamster wheels? Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we do need to do ban appeals again. There's a golden visa option, too. Yeah, the O1 visa. Yeah, if that's what you're referring to. I'm just not 100% sure on that. So, yeah, it's a bit of a false line to take on the visa thing. They're talking about issuing visas to the top 0.1%. They aren't serving staff in a restaurant. Well, so, and that's the thing, right, is like you're talking about like that top 0.1% of people. But the problem is that maybe all this is just like all fake news, misinformation. But I keep seeing articles and like images posted of like people that have like HB1 visas, and like they're working as like cashiers and like random jobs here, where it's like, do you really think we need to import somebody from another country to be a cashier, or to just like be like an average worker somewhere? Yeah, janitor, exactly, right? I don't know whether this is true or not because I just haven't really done enough research for it. But I find that to be very problematic, and I think it does go against the idea that, oh, well, this system is just being used for like your Einsteins and like your Operation Paperclip guys. I don't think that's what's happening. It seems like that's not what's happening. I could be wrong again, right? I'm not an expert in this, but this is just what I've observed. Cheap labor always wins. Cheap products sell. Yeah, but that can be a problem. I think people have forgotten why epistemology is. People don't question why what they hear or why it's said. They just keep acting from this level 1 perspective. Oh yeah, that's definitely true. And if Americans are too lazy or above it, yeah. And I think that is also an issue too. But I don't really know how big of an issue it is. I have no idea. I just have to look and check for myself. There are a lot of illegal workers in construction. I don't know, like, how true that actually is. Like, I don't know. I mean, like, is that true or not? I mean, it's definitely a meme, right? It's a stereotype. Of course, right? Go to Home Depot and there's, like, a bunch of people there that are, like, waiting like it's a fucking, LFG system, in front of Home Depot in the morning. Yeah, I don't know whether this is actually happening. I'm not sure. And I'm not, again, I don't want to have to take a stance on this because I just don't know. That's all. But of course, I think logically it would make sense. Sure. It is in the South? Yeah. No, I'm in Texas, right? And like, so, like over here in Texas, like we have places that are in Spanish here and everything. It's always been like this too. Like you've got to keep in mind, a lot of Texas used to be Mexico. So we have tons of people that are Mexican here. Like it's extremely fucking common. So I never really thought it was anything like problematic or whatever. Mexicans were here before Europeans. Well, yeah, that's true. And so I can tell you 100%, there's 70% legals in construction. I've done it for 15 years. Well, that's a problem, isn't it? Yeah. Every legal, hardworking, what's this here? Every legal foreign worker and uses agencies to take a cut of their wages, even if they're on minimum wage, they take a cut, making it so the workers are actually working for below minimum wage. So, this is like near my house, and so, actually, no, it's near my dad's house. There's like a house there where a lot of the guys, I think that some of them are probably like that. I mean, I don't really know, I'm just guessing. There's like probably 12 people that live in that house. And like, even like people in the neighborhood have like complained because of like how many like cars are around in that area. So, I mean, I don't know if you guys have had like an area like that yourself because like, you live in an area like this, but yeah, Mexican does not equal Aztec. What the fuck? I don't know. I mean, that's not mine.
Mexican does not equal Aztec.
India managers are extremely into nepotism. We do not need that.
That blood is so mixed over there.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that every person from India is going to represent Indian culture. And I think that in a lot of cases, like, and this is, again, I'm talking about right now, like, my personal anecdotal experience, so, like, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. Of all of the people that I know who have immigrated to the U.S., I have seen the most Indian Americans be the most Americanized. They even have the fucking accent. They wear the clothes. They're into NASCAR. It's like they're the entire fucking thing. But this is just, again, this is just my personal experience. I think you mean Amerindians instead of Mexicans? Well, I think it really depends. I mean, like, we had a lot of Eric Garcias, right? And, like, you know, David Hernandez's in my high school. Like, I mean, my high school was, like, 70% Mexican. Like, I think it was, like, 70% Mexican, like, 10% white, and, like, 15 or 20% black or something like that. I don't remember. It was some dynamic like that. And so, yeah, it was a lot different. Oof, American Cope, I guess you're Mexican now? I mean, I don't know. This is, like, just me, personally. I feel like I have more in common with a Mexican here than a white person in, like, I don't know, Minnesota. Like, in terms of, like, values, like, life experience, etc., I have more in common with them. Yeah, I mean... yeah, why shouldn't you? Yeah, of course, right? I mean, fuck. Yeah, we eat the same food, we go to the same place, we have the same, like, culture, pretty much, right? I mean, you know, white people drink Bud Light. I guess they drink, like, you know, Corona. Like, what is this? It's like nothing. Basically, it's the same thing. Chris, yeah, there you go. Model, there, yes, it's Model. It's Corona, Modelo, and there's one more. Oh, God, what's the other one? Tecate? No, there's another one besides that. Fuck, I forgot. Pacifico? Dos Equis, yes, there you go. Yes. By the way, I don't like drinking, but when I did drink, you know, socially, Corona was always my favorite. I like Modelo and Corona more, so fuck, I don't know what to say. So, yeah, growing up, like, I grew up in, like, a very kind of, like, multiracial area. And, like, yes. Pretty much, I mean, and you can see this from, like, photos of, like, my friends when I was a kid. This is my old
Everyone
room.
Listen.
So, I mean, this is, like, Cody, Cameron. So, like, we grew up in a very multiracial area.
Draw them
and,
out.
like, this was just normal for us. And this was, like, me with my video camera. And, like, that's Zach McReevy. That's Cody, Don John. Cameron just is, you know... Went to Oklahoma, you know, apparently was a basketball player at college, married I think Cody said he married a white volleyball player, fucking W, and as far as I know, he's doing great. I think he's doing something in electricity, right? And so, yeah, there you go. No girls? No, this is us playing World of Warcraft. There you fucking go, man. And anyway... So, yeah, they, like, growing up, like, that was my life, and, you know, I just never really, you know, like, that type of a thing for, like, the racial or, like, thinking, like, there's a big difference there. Why, wait, I have that pirate flag? Oh, yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, it didn't matter. Yeah, no, we just never really thought about it that way. Back when times were simple. Yeah, things were really good back then, man. I remember... Oh, God. Oh, God. I remember in high school, we had a clan in Halo 2, and the clan's name was, like, it was, like, N-word killers or something like that, but, like, the first letters were switched. And my dad sees this, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, how are you a part of this? This is disgusting. And I'm like, no,
the Empire
Dad, you don't understand. Pa, you don't understand.
Exactly.
I'm the only white person in this fucking clan.
It's too bad. No.
Nobody took that shit seriously at all. And yes, no, I'm serious. That's the way it was. Yes, and people would just say this shit and be racist. Yeah, you don't understand. No, I'm the only white person here. The token white guy. No, I literally was. We would be making calls in Halo 2, and I remember Angel and Joaquin, his older brother, and Bobby would call me white boy. And we'd be playing, and, like, my dad's like, is that you? I'm like, yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's it. Did you get the pass?
Fit for duty. Return to your post.
back then, everybody had the pass, okay? Yeah, let's just say that. You stuck out? Yeah, those are my boys, man.
You are fit for
Absolutely.
duty. Return to your post.
Anyway, I'll try this out. So apparently a really big patch for this game came out. I don't know exactly what it is. I haven't played Power World, as you guys can see, since December 9th. Wait, actually that's kind of recent. Oh, that's right. I logged on because of the ball issue. It was the ball. Remember the balls? No one cared back then? No, nobody cared back then at all. Like, there were so many stupid stories. Oh, God. Like, I remember there was a guy that was in an older grade than me, and I would get home from school early, and I would play Halo with his little sister, and I would flirt with his little sister and send her DMs. And then he would get home and he would read them, and he'd be so fucking mad. And I was like, too bad. I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah. Oh, God. Those balls? Yeah, I was in like, I think 8th or, no, it was like 9th or 10th grade or something like that. Send a purple ball? Yeah, stay mad. Oh, man. So, let's see.
Oh. I have to go here. That's what I'm missing. Anyway, let me see if I can go ahead and get another video going without this thing breaking on me. The Free Luigi Rally. Jesus. Let's see.
Do you remember what I said about face tattoos?
Health over wealth!
Can you tell us about your sign?
Yes. Government recognized terrorism, MLK, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Luigi Mangione. And this just speaks to the fact that historically many...
It's so funny to me that MLK, oh my God.
Human rights leaders who have stood up against mistreatment.
Oh, wait, no, it makes sense. She's wearing a mask. Okay, yeah, no, okay, for sure.
Against apartheid have also been labeled as terrorists to sow doubt and fear.
Obviously, what Luigi did was an act of violence. Not going to touch on that as much, but he
has lifted us out of
That's fair for her to say that.
Dust in the trivialness of politics and legislation.
And I believe that this is being done to send a message.
Healthcare should not be for profit. Yeah. That is the bare minimum.
I agree with her.
If you put profit anywhere near protecting human life, people will prioritize profit.
Of
you
course.
cannot have a for-profit system
business.
that prioritizes human life.
That's a good cosplay.
Business
I like
never
that. That's really meta.
evolved on the planet to where it should be.
And profit.
In my opinion,
anyway. It is impossible.
I've had somebody on the floor fainting, on the verge of dying, who was literally saying, begging, please don't call an ambulance because my family...
You know what's crazy is my mom had this same exact thing, and she did the same exact thing to me. I remember it so well. God, it was upsetting.
Cannot afford it. Do you know what it is to have somebody in so much pain and only thinking my family cannot afford it? I'd like to ask the public in general, why is there a correlation with profit and denying people the right to health care in their most vulnerable moments.
As you may be aware, there are some current health insurance policies out, such as limiting the number of hours of anesthesia that will be covered by health insurance for patients. And recently, another health insurance company changed their policy on benefits for children with autism. At the end of the day, our message is not to comment on any healthcare policy alternatives, but to state insurance companies, business people, and people looking to make a profit should not be the ones in charge of which healthcare treatments or procedures people can receive.
Yeah. I think she's right. I do. That should be between you and your doctor. Yeah, that's true. I think that the more that the focus is on Luigi and like whether what he did was good or not, I think that the less the probability is that any actual change would ever happen. Because like at the end of the day, like what the guy did is clearly indefensible. Like you everybody knows this, right? And so, and this, by the way, there have been studies, and this actually is a super majority. Everybody thinks this is a bad situation. If you look at the entire population, look it up yourself. And so, I think the issue is like, but like what these people are actually saying, I think is something that many people agree with.
Overwhelmed! What's up, guys? 2:28 p.m. December 21st, 2024. I'm here in Washington Square Park in New York City. There appears to be a few things going on right now. There's a rap battle cipher happening. There's some kind of TikTok dance challenge. A Free the Hostages protest.
Okay.
And I'm at the Free Luigi rally. You guys probably know who Luigi is.
Yeah.
He's being held at MDC in Brooklyn right now.
Nigga in there for a body, but he doing the right thing. I said Luigi been the dawn since he put his Pampers on. Vagabonds ran out the mouth like a marathon. Spazzing out, he hopped in the whip and he carried on with the shooters. Got more aims than every on. Free Luigi, gang. That us. Free Luigi. I'll trade plays. I've been in jail for 5 years. He don't know what it's like yet.
He is suspected of
that was pretty good. I don't know why. Why is it that every time this guy interviews people, they start rapping?
Assassinating the CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson.
Brian Thompson is dead after being shot in Midtown Manhattan. The shooting happened near the Midtown Hilton. Thompson was not staying in the hotel, but we've learned he was in New York.
We can't walk. You can't. Oh, never mind. That's fine.
For an investors conference.
Oh, yeah.
According to a manifesto that was leaked by investigative journalist Ken Klippenstein, who we interview later in this video, Luigi has a major problem with the health insurance industry, and possibly health insurance claim denials, which essentially means insurance companies refusing to cover the cost of medical treatment for insured patients, aka paying customers. For you pampered Europeans out there who don't know what freedom tastes like, let me explain something to you. In the United States, on top of sales and personal income tax, we also pay, on average, $550 a month to private companies for something called health insurance.
$550 is the average?
Yeah, it's expensive. They just upped my
God.
stuff. My stuff went up recently.
That's insane. How much is it for you
I don't have to go
guys?
to the fucking emergency room while I'm fucked.
That's crazy. That's like as much as that's like half of a rent payment almost. Probably a third now, but like holy shit.
Yeah.
Who in return give us a cool card that we take to the doctor when something goes wrong. At the hospital or at the front desk of an urgent care clinic, the doctor or receptionist, before telling you what's wrong or what the options are for treatment, will first ask you if you have the card or not. If you don't have the card, just getting into the door and being seen by a doctor is between 2 to 10 times more expensive. Then after you're in there, the
2 to 10 times more expensive. True and not true. So, there was a time that I went to urgent care, and I thought there was something wrong with me, and so they looked at me, and basically, they didn't even have me pay. I didn't even have to pay. I was seen by a doctor, and they checked on me and everything. They were like, because I think they assumed that I was like a crackhead or a bum, and I just randomly showed up, and I was having some sort of like crazy episode. And they're like, okay, yeah, just get out of here. You're fine. You're fine. Just go somewhere else. And that was it. Yeah, and they thought I was a crack. It's like last year. And so that happened. But one difference is that a lot of the companies that do this, and this is especially true, like the way that I know this is with dental insurance and paying for things with like your teeth, is that if you're paying for something in cash, there is a different rate that they go with, but it is substantially still way higher than if you had insurance paying for it, obviously, right? Is it 2 to 5 times or 2 to 10 times? Probably not, but it's more.
Foolery continues. After a doctor diagnoses you and makes a recommendation as to what they believe is the correct course of action, whether it be surgery, therapy, medication, or what have you, they have to file a claim with your insurance provider and ask them, the ones you're paying, if it's in budget for their company. This is called filing a health insurance claim. In some cases, companies will deny the claims, which forces doctors and physicians to present their patients with a depressing ultimatum. Either pay...
Yeah, that's fucking insane. Like, for me, I remember... So I was able to get my insurance to pay for my Tempur-Pedic bed because apparently my, I went to a chiropractor and they said, well, we can tell them that, you need this. And so I got, $1,000 off or something like that. Or no, it was less than that. It was, $400 off of the bed for that reason. It's fucked up. Yeah, it's such a convoluted and confusing system. For any video gamers that might not be Americans, the best way that I can explain the American healthcare system is think about Path of Exile crafting, but there are people who become millionaires by exploiting the different advantages. That's basically it. And I'm talking about Path of Exile 1 crafting.
Exorbitant uninsured rates for care, or if you can't afford it, get the hell out of here, you sick bastard, and come back with some money. And if you can't find some money, you could submit an appeal and begin that lengthy process, which on average...
Here's another component that I think that Andrew isn't going to cover, but I've been familiar with myself, is that a lot of... this happened to my dad. My dad had a bunch of different medication that he would take, like hydrocodone, and he actually even took morphine straight up. And he had been taking these now at the time for 5 or 10 or 15 years, right? And he had taken Valium for 50 years. And they started trying to take him off of it. And so my dad had to stop doing hydrocodone. I think it was cyclobenzaprine, morphine. And I'm pretty sure there was one other one on top of that. They cut him off of all of those in 30 or 90 days. And so it's not just the fact that they can cut this off for this reason, but they can also cut it off for different drug scare reasons too. Supposed to be weaned off? Yeah, not in Texas.
Takes over 180 days, a window in which 47% of respondents said their health condition got worse. United Healthcare, of which...
Well, and it's also another reason is that anxiety and stress causes somebody... It's like having Sunder Armor, right? It's like having a debuff on you, where you take more damage. So it's if you're stressed out and upset, things like this are going to negatively affect your health more. Stress is a killer? Yeah, it is. It actually is a killer. I remember I went to the doctor and I had a blood pressure reading of, this is my high score so far, 194. That's not a good number, by the way. And so, why is that? It was just stress. Just stress and worry. How'd you not die? Easy. Just didn't do it. Yeah, I just didn't do it. I just didn't die. And so anyway, and after that, I realized, you need to... I'm bro, you need to chill the fuck... to myself, right? I'm you need to chill the fuck out. Just stop. Stop getting upset. Stop getting worried. You're literally killing yourself. And it was a lot. Almost 200. Nice. Yeah. Yeah, just do it. Yeah, and after that, I changed a number of things. Got it down to, it's 125. Last time I checked. Maybe 100, I figure it was 135 or 125, right? It's one or the other.
Brian Thompson was the CEO, has the highest claim denial rate of any other major health insurance company. Part of this has to do with the fact that during COVID, the company began using AI to assess and deny claims.
Data is at the core of our agenda to improve healthcare, which directly influences how we develop innovative consumer solutions.
According to a class action lawsuit filed in Minnesota by the estates of 2 deceased patients, the AI tool they deployed, called NaviHealth, now defunct, had a known 90% error rate, but the company...
I've spent some time defending the guy and being well, you shouldn't shoot somebody for this. which I still agree with. I don't think you should shoot somebody for this, but I do think you should put them in jail for it. Like, the only reason why I think Luigi did something wrong is that he robbed the public of getting the getting the vindication of putting this guy in jail. Like, that's it. Like, somebody who does this and they know that it's 90% error rate, I mean, at a certain point, there needs to be a level of personal accountability for this. But legal, yeah, you have to do it legally. Of course you have to do it legally. But, like, there has to be accountability. Never would have happened. Well, I mean, fuck. I think the reason why it would have never happened is because enough people don't understand it. People don't understand this problem well enough to really fully grasp what the issues are. And I think it's because a lot of the effects of this are like second and third order effects. So it's hard for people to like really see how things connect together.
Refused to fix the problem, leading to a series of protests and more litigation from across the country, way before Luigi entered the picture.
Complicating the crime, Thompson was under investigation for insider trading. The city of Hollywood.
I mean, the guy's a piece of shit. He got arrested for DUI. I mean, what are we talking about?
Its firefighters pension fund is part of a class action lawsuit against Thompson and United Healthcare.
These parasites had it coming, Luigi allegedly writes, framing Brian Thompson as a predatory businessman and himself as an arbiter of karmic retribution. Thompson leaves behind a soon-to-be ex-wife and 2 teenage sons, which is sad. People dying sucks. However, 41% of young voters polled by Emerson College in Boston say the assassination was quote-unquote acceptable. And the past few weeks on social media have seen a rabid frenzy of cult-like Luigi worship, exalting him as a righteous reaper who took matters into his own hands.
Absolutely.
Something of a communist Kyle Rittenhouse, fulfilling a deep, almost primal void that so many have had for an Italian-American anti-hero since Tony Soprano left us in 2007.
His comments...
I do think that a lot of the reason why people like him is because he's photogenic and attractive. I feel like if he wasn't and he looked like a weird, like ugly dude, it probably wouldn't even be nearly as much attention. And so, like, I don't think that it's really as ideological as people would believe. But sure. And I think also there's another big component of this is that memeing. Like, doing the Luigi memes is funny. There's a lot of people, like, I think a lot of them are really funny. I don't agree with them, but I think they're funny. It's like 9/11 memes. Like, God, I've a million of those, right? For sure. But that's not the same thing.
Every good, he got bitches visiting him, all that.
Despite having pled not guilty, market data suggests that Luigi hats are flying off the shelves at record rates. And with no progressive policy change in the cards for the next 4 years, scores of young progressives have been given hope.
This is a person that he saw was the head of a company that was guiding a company that implemented an AI system to deny claims to vulnerable people, elderly people, that had a denial rate of over almost 90%, that was continuing, to just profit off of widespread suffering.
If you were to ask how many people who are insured get denied their health care claims, there's no math on that because they will never release those numbers. They don't have to, and it would incriminate them. If you were to ask how many were uninsured and die every year, it's approximately 48,000, which is 4,000 people a month, 130 a day, 5 an hour, and 1 person every minute and a half is dying in this country because they're being held hostage by the health insurers.
I'm not sure how you arrive at that number. It's very hard to say. But, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people that need health care and they can't get it. Yeah, for sure.
Every person that dies does not just die. They are killed by the health insurance system. They are assassinated. They are executed by the capitalist
just
system.
Averaging it? Well, what I'm saying is, like, how do you get the 48,000 number, right? Like, how do you define, like, a person dying and, like, how could you look at the difference between, like, because if you can't A/B test whether a certain surgery would save a person, like, I don't know if you can really be certain about that. That's my point.
For profit.
Wow. But I'm sure there's a lot of people.
To pretend that one man in charge of that system being executed is somehow more important than every single person every minute and a half who is being executed it's abominable.
Imagine carefully planning the execution of someone you don't even know, haven't met, someone who hasn't done a thing to you, and now he's a hero to some on the left.
The media pretends that because you shoot somebody, it's somehow more unacceptable than to sign a paper denying somebody coverage and signing their death warrant. But it's murder just the same.
I agree. I think that people like him should be held accountable. And I think that's really what the issue is that a lot of people have, is that there's not really a form of corporate accountability that average people think is sufficient enough. Because, like, you have people that basically do what United Healthcare did, or they do something that's very accountable for what? Well, like, they're held accountable for, let's say, denying a lot of claims, or for trying to reach certain profit margins and denying things based off of a reason that's not in the best interest of the customer. I think it's actually very easy to look at like what the incentives are and see whether those incentives are good or bad. And so, yeah, misuse of funds, exactly. Yeah, definitely damaging malpractice. Yeah, exactly. And so this is really what the issue is. And like, you know, in other places in the world, occasionally they'll like execute some, you know, company owner or some billionaire. And usually everybody's pretty happy about that. When it happens, I think that maybe not execution, right? It's hard to say. But I think with a lot of these people, the main issue is that there's never any form of personal accountability that comes with making bad decisions that actually kill people. So a lot of companies will end up taking risks that put people's lives in danger because they know that they'll never actually be held accountable for it.
Death is, I mean...
yeah.
This country has been built on blood and death. And
you know, the president and the vice president are posing and smiling with a known murderer, Daniel Penny, who we know murdered a man.
Totally support this guy, by the way. Completely in the right. Huge W. Totally support him.
Whether the legality lets him go to prison or go free
based.
Is a completely different thing.
Yeah. Yes.
So I would say to the president, if he would stop eating McDonald's and get out of the golf resort, he could maybe ask the billionaire who's dog walking him if he could start working for health care for the people that elected him.
Because
the thing is that he's right. The Luigi cosplayer is completely right. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like the Elon Musk and dog walking Trump, like that's just, I don't give a fuck about that. But like, yeah, 100% he's right. He's not in office. Yeah, well, when he was, and nothing really happened, right? Kind of elaborate what the difference between him and Luigi is. Yeah, basically, so the guy that Daniel Penny killed was like running after somebody with a knife, and he had 41 arrests prior. And so this is like a crazy, violent person who could murder somebody at that very moment. And so it's like a life or death, immediate self-defense situation. Whereas when you look at Luigi, you're thinking about somebody who's just killing someone proactively. Like, this is a very different dynamic. Yeah, had to do something? Yeah, exactly. It was self-defense. Yeah, basically.
Health is one of the most important things to being human. It's one of the things that continue to make us humane, that allow us to do all of the things that society continues to build on, all the things that make you happy, activities, whatsoever. If you are not in good health, then that basically closes the door to every other thing that you would like to do in life. And every other major first world nation, and all of the others, have universal health care.
I came down here because personally I'm going through the whole healthcare thing. I got the same back surgery as Luigi, probably, what was it, December 24th.
Can you explain exactly what that surgery is?
It is a surgery on your lumbar. It would be, I believe that would be the L4 and 5 that I got the surgery on.
Lumbar is like the lower part of your back?
Yeah, the lumbar down at the bottom here. And also I got one in my neck.
According to Reddit posts made by Luigi, he underwent a pretty difficult spinal surgery last year for chronic back pain, specifically in the lower lumbar region, where he had a misalignment that caused him extreme pain, unable to look up, arch his back, surf, rock climb, or be intimate. The surgery, called a discectomy, typically costs between $15,000 and $50,000 without insurance. And even those who can afford it often find themselves waiting months and even years for care.
So when I got my
I don't know if the money for him was a factor. I think that Luigi is the kind of person that probably did it because he just didn't like healthcare. And the back surgery was like maybe the cherry on top, but it wasn't the real reason. I mean, this guy came from an extremely wealthy family. They could have paid it no problem. Yeah, his family was rich, right? So I don't think that like the price of it was like a deciding factor in him doing that. It doesn't make sense to me. He didn't even have United. Yeah, exactly. And so I don't think that's the reason.
Surgery, it was a year and a half of trying to get the ability to get the surgery, and the whole time I had nerve damage. Now I have permanent nerve damage, and they're saying that a lot of it was because I had to sit around for so long. So what they gave...
Of course, right? And that's the problem, is that a lot of these types of injuries and things like this, what they end up doing is that they cause you to have other compounding issues. It's kind of like how obesity means that you can't move around as much, and not being able to move around as much means that you can't do something else. So it's like a cascade of problems that is like one creates and precipitates the other and the other and the other. Like, for example, like my dad had pneumonia like last year, and he got pneumonia 2 days after he got hernia surgery. So like it was harder for him to like get rid of all the like the infected tissue with like the pneumonia, because he couldn't cough and he couldn't spit anything out because he had just received a hernia operation. So it's like usually when it's kind of like COVID, right? Where like a lot of people that got like killed by COVID, they didn't get killed by COVID. They got killed by COVID being the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think that that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize about like health issues, is that health issues end up cascading into more health issues. Right? Comorbidities. Yes, that's the word. And somebody else said in chat that like a lot of people that are younger support it. I don't think that younger people supporting it is an indication of people having any sort of like real viewpoint, because I think that if you went back and you had a person like this do this in the 60s, you'd probably have the same level of support from young people, and then those young people now are old and they don't support it. I think that it's something that's primarily because of the demographic, and not necessarily because of any sort of like actual sign of change. Yeah, that's young people just. Well, I mean, I think young people are like much more prone to be like to be extremely aggressive with like making changes like that. Yeah, they're edgy. Yeah, and I think also like when you're young, you don't have as much respect for a system because you feel like that system probably doesn't work in your best interest in a lot of cases, and in some cases they're probably right. But for older people, obviously, you know, they have a different perspective. Yeah, your brain isn't developed till 27. Yeah, that's also another factor, right? True.
Me was like medication. I was on pain like opiates.
Yeah.
Now the insurance companies are saying that it's not a long-term thing. Mm-hmm. I can't sleep. I can't do anything without like medication.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I can't even afford to keep going with insurance. I haven't worked for 2 years since this incident, and like I guess the reason why I'm down here is because I keep hearing, you know, about everybody suffering from the healthcare system, and like myself, I'm about to be homeless. Like I lost everything. I was making about $114K a year, and
Jesus, and that. Wow.
Now I'm down to nothing. When I went to the disability office and everything, I did that over a year and a half ago, and I'm still pending in the courts. I haven't had a first court date. So the whole system is designed to just take you out. Like, in the next 2-3 months, I'm going to have to find
It's crazy how much money and how much that stacks up and how fast it is. It's nuts. Yeah, also, I mean, like, the Gucci glasses, like, okay, so, like, that's true in a way, but, I mean, let's be real. If he had a job, he's making over $100,000 a year, he's making 6 figures, he can afford Gucci glasses. He probably bought those 3 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe. And, like, this is when things were good, and then things got bad, and so he still has the glasses. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's stupid with money, right? I don't know. It's not enough points on the graph to make a line, right?
A way to move. I don't have any family, so I'm gonna go hang out with some friends and try to do that while I'm suing a company for what happened. But in the meanwhile, there's no help or health care, and now I'm looking down that I won't have any medication, which means I can't go on walks, I can't sleep, I can't sit, I can't do anything comfortably, I can't even cook. So I just wanted to let you know what's going on with
the medication you're taking.
Oxycodone. Yeah, 10 by 325. I used to be on 5 a day, so 50 milligrams.
Recognizing that his opiate tolerance was getting far too high, Nicholas asked his doctor to be prescribed pregabalin, an epilepsy medication that also helps with nerve pain.
But the problem with...
Yeah, it's fucking brutal, man. It really is. Yeah, it's no way to live. I mean, it's better than not, right? I mean, it's better to have it than not.
That is, once you start taking it for like a month or two, once you stop taking it, the rate for like seizures as a side effect is really high, I'm being told. So no doctors even want to give that to me because I live by myself. You know, I live in Midtown, and I am about to have no help whatsoever. I'm down to my last 6 days of medication, so...
Yeah, my dad went through this exact same thing. It was fucking brutal. Yep. Again, a tolerance? Yeah, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to take my email down, we can try to help you. I don't know if you need help moving or, you know, we have extra money and shit if you need help.
Super expensive,
I mean, it sounds like I got you, man. Yeah, well, I want to help you, man. It sounds horrible.
Big surprise. Hey, you're on speaker.
You know, I for my neck, because they fused those two levels, and then they fused a third level, and then the vertebra on the bottom collapsed. It just broke apart in my neck, so they had to go in there and, you know, put in a replacement there.
Yeah, yeah.
I was just to the neurosurgeon here about a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago.
Yeah, yeah.
And he says I got 2 more on my back, but I'm so damn old that, you know, they don't want to fuck around with it. And but all the way since I was 17, they started giving me. There wasn't even any hydrocodone or anything like that around. All there was codeine, and so I take, you know, several of those a day, and then over Nam or the Darvon and the codeine, and then after that I was on hydrocodone about 5 a day, and then when I went to that pain doc, he kept stepping it up.
Yeah.
What I needed was, when it got bad, you know, to use it temporarily, but he had me on a steady diet.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it wasn't doctors or anything cut me off. It was the fucking Texas board, which doesn't even have all doctors on it. And they just decided, well, we're just going to cut off, because a lot of people kill themselves with heroin and fentanyl.
Yeah.
So we're going to just cut off this guy's hydrocodone and morphine. And I also took Lyrica and another painkiller I can't remember now. And so that effectively ended my life. You know how it was before, and you know how it was after I couldn't get any more hydrocodone. I mean, when you're in pain and can't carry any kind, even the lightest pack.
Well, it's not even just that. It's like, because you can't exercise as much either, right? And so it's like you can't exercise as much, and then now you don't have the muscle mass, and now that's creating a bigger problem because that helps keep the bones in your spine, like, in place. Yeah, it's a cascade effect.
Yeah, it's been awful, and I got off all those, you know, the morphine and the hydrocodone and the others and all that shit by myself.
Yeah.
Because I hate going to those rehab centers and they do, you know, like, what's that? It's like AA, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I hate that shit. So I just did it myself at home, and I had a tough 3 or 4 months. But with my meds, just like this guy's got 6 days left. I remember when I had 6 days left, and I was scouring the countryside, and I could manage to pick up a few here and a few there.
Yeah.
People, I told them, man, if you, so I don't give a shit whether you can take them. Just get the painkillers, give them to me. And but you know, there's only so many people I can get that from.
Right. Yeah.
So I was shit out of luck, and I still am.
Yep.
I've got, you know, a weak one, but I can kind of store it up, and by not taking it, and then use it just when it gets bad, like it has been around Christmas time doing shit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, this guy's dead right.
Yep.
They take away with it, and that's because how many people commit suicide or accidentally kill themselves with hydrocodone? And, 85-90% of the deaths are fentanyl, and then there's the heroin on top of that.
Yeah.
And so by the time you get down to hydrocodone, it's damn near nothing.
Yeah.
And so there's fuck up there, and of course this is Texas, and
no, it's some religious bullshit. No, I get it. No, I do. I mean, it's just that, but this is, yeah, I was just saying, like, your situation is very similar.
Oh yeah, kicked my ass.
Yeah.
And they kept giving me antidepressants, and I said, these things don't work.
Yeah.
They're fucking me up.
Tell me all you
and
know
for
about
10
the armor
years
balance
they did this.
Yeah.
Cowboy blue doctor down in a little town called St. Cloud in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Said, do you have any other symptoms? And I said, yeah, I've got this lump on my neck, and when it goes down, I feel like I'm going nuts.
Yeah.
And so he sent me there, and the neurologist blew it off. But he said, well, we better get some x-rays, finally. And then he had dictated notes that are all printed out. And at the bottom, he had a little note he wrote in there, severe deterioration of C3.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember all this, but
the C means cervical.
Yeah.
And that's what, and that's when for years and years I had this problem, and it deteriorated.
Yeah. No, I
doctors they look at me and they say, "Oh, you look fine," and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy got screwed the same way I did. And I also wanted to let you know, I know you're seeing it in chat, but you might want to mention and see what's going on with Carter.
Yeah, I'll look at that. I'll look at that after I finish this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Stop by later, will you?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Yo. Bye.
Yo. Bye-bye.
Okay. So yeah. No, my dad had to deal with this whole situation. Like, that's how I know about this is that that was like that was his story, and like there's obviously brutal, more to it, but like that's the abridged version.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
After this interview, I decided to launch a GoFundMe to help Zan move, pay rent, and afford medication, which I kicked off with a $1,000 donation. I hope that collectively we can all pitch in a few bucks and help him to at least get some relief in this subjectively horrible situation.
That sucks.
He struck me as a great guy, and I'm very blessed to have the platform to help people who need it. I've put the link in the pinned comment in the description of this video. All right, let's go back to the controversial manifesto that was leaked.
Also in his backpack, according to police, a 3-page handwritten manifesto confessing to the murder of United Healthcare's CEO Brian Thompson and ranting about other health insurance bosses.
Yep.
Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming.
And so whenever you read that manifesto and you noticed that parallel, did you resonate with the frustration that Luigi felt?
Of course.
I'll be honest, yeah.
Of course.
I don't know if the manifesto is real or not. Like he said, you can't trust anything the NYPD says.
Yeah.
But in regards to what it said, like not being able to sleep, rolling...
I think that a lot of people resonate with Luigi's situation. I think that like being able to like relate to and like understand the way that he feels doesn't necessarily mean that you're like rationalizing behavior, but like if you look at kind of like where a person's coming from and it's like how did they get here, it makes a lot of sense.
Over like
I think somebody in chat said it. Everyone agrees with Luigi minus the murder. Yeah, the murder thing is the contentious part. What he was saying, I think pretty much everybody fucking agrees with.
I had someone who used to come and help me at where if I didn't have medication, like if it was on back order before my surgery, I would be throwing up from the pain. I couldn't, crawling to the bathroom. It was fucking terrible. And and also if
not the news, you can curse all you want.
As illustrated by this conversation, there's been many disputes regarding the authenticity of the alleged Luigi manifesto.
Who knows?
However, the journalist who leaked it is quite reputable, so I believe it to be real. And I had many questions for him. Here's what Ken had to say.
I'm Ken Klippenstein. I'm an investigative reporter.
You made the choice to leak Mangione's manifesto to the public. I want to know why you made that choice.
Well, I just thought it was media paternalism at its worst to withhold this on, I think, the dubious grounds that releasing this out to the public is going to be like some kind of code word, like in the Manchurian Candidate, where it's just going to activate something in everyone's brain and cause...
Fuck that. I don't want to hear that from the media after they parade this guy around and they're constantly showing photos of him and farming every single interaction when he's in public, but somehow we can't show the manifesto? Get the fuck out of here. Like, they're the ones that are building this up by filming him constantly everywhere.
To take out acts of violence against other CEOs. I mean, all this sounds very familiar to me.
Yeah, treat him like the fucking Joker,
argument that violent video games is causing shootings. Mm-hmm. I think it's just scapegoating something else because people don't want to deal with the underlying issue of why would the health insurance industry produce grievances of the sort that would cause people to find memes about this person dying funny. That's the question that people should be looking at. And to me, that is the kind of active ingredient in all of this that's driving the response that some people find distasteful. But instead of looking at that, they're just kind of wagging their finger and saying, oh, if we just take it down from everywhere. I mean, I had, internal chats from the New York Times staff leaked to me showing that they were instructed from on high, above, like senior management, telling them, we need to, quote, dial down the use of Mangioni's photo, his headshot, in pictures. The idea being we don't want to, play into the glorification of him. And the idea...
I actually agree with that. I think that we have a huge problem of glorification of violence and glorification of criminals. But the issue is that I think that with the New York Times and with a lot of these cases, it seems like it's always very self-serving. So, like, they don't really care about, like, this happening. They care about somebody thinking, well, you know what else I don't like? I don't like the New York Times either, and they go and shoot everybody in the building. That's what they're worried about. They're not worried about negatively affecting American culture. They're not worried about, like, what this implies for, like, the public at large. They're worried about somebody seeing Mangione doing this and then thinking, maybe I should do the same thing to the New York Times. That's what they're afraid of. It's self-serving.
A picture of somebody is going to intrinsically just, again, cause everyone, like, it shows you how much contempt they have, the public. They think people are zombies that are just going to see something and just act it out, and there's no critical thought.
Well, I think that's true, actually. I think Ken's wrong. I think people are that stupid. Yeah, I do. I really, actually, I think it is that simple.
That happens.
Is that their version of populism, killing CEOs?
And look, to the extent that they're justifying this, what they're doing even worse is they're tacitly encouraging copycats.
So you're saying that the CEOs and the government are scared of like a V for Vendetta final scene in Joker contagious wave of assassinations happening?
In fact, they use that word contagion. If you look at what the head of NYPD intelligence, which is a very big office, NYPD is, on the footing of a national...
by the way, everybody should be terrified of that happening. Because if a lot of people start going around and killing high-profile people, what's going to happen is they're just going to come out with a new Patriot Act where you lose even more of your rights and you have even less autonomy over your own life. Like, it's not like they're just going to say, oh, wait a minute, I guess we're going to lose. Oh, just a minute, wait a second, all right, I guess we're going to do what you want. Yeah, they're not going to do that. It's just going to be worse for everybody. They'll kill even more people? Yeah, exactly. Revolution is inevitable. I think it is not. It is not inevitable. It is impossible. There's not going to be a revolution. Sorry, I just don't think so.
Agency, multi-billion-dollar budget, and she gave a public speech to the Atlantic Council, a think tank, in which she described this explicitly in counter-terror terms, including the speech being expressed in support of Mangione.
Well, so, I think that obviously Luigi's a terrorist, right? I mean, if you look at the definition of terrorism, I think that he would fit that definition for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it worked. It did. It worked in a lot of ways. He's not? Oh, I don't know. I feel like, I don't think so. So is every school shooter? So that's not true. So the difference is that terrorism generally is done to advance a political goal. What Luigi did was done with the purpose of advancing a political goal. That's very different than a person going crazy and shooting everybody. And again, like how so? Well, because of the intent behind it. So the intent behind a crazy person going crazy is that they're crazy. The intent behind a person who's doing something for a reason is that reason. There's a huge difference between those two things. How could you think that there's not? Now, maybe not in effect, but in approach, in terms of like how to reduce this from happening, etc., They're very different. By definition, a school shooter would be a terrorist? Not necessarily, no. No, that's not true. There are a lot of school shooters that do it because they're just crazy. They're just fucked up in the head. Like Adam Lanza, for example, that did Sandy Hook. Just fucked up in the head. There's no ideology behind this. He's just a fucking freak. So that's it. I mean, like, and again, like, this isn't like this. I feel like some people might be getting upset about this. This is just you just look at the facts, right? I mean, that's all. Disagree? I mean, you can disagree, but like, I'm just saying that based off of the definition of terrorism, he is in fact a terrorist. Like, I don't think this is really a debate, right? I mean, unless you want to say the definition's wrong.
So it's not just about him as an individual. They are treating this, like you said, and using the word contagion. There's this whole, law enforcement theory that it is almost like the Cold War or Vietnam. The idea that it's going to jump from communism will jump from one country to another, and then it'll spread to another.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any evidence for that. To date, there's no example of somebody shooting someone else in response to this. There is an example of a lot of people posting mean.
I think that it might happen, and there's a good chance that it will happen. Because there's like over 300 million people in the country. What's the chance that one of those people pop off? It's pretty high, I would say. Yeah, I think it's a very high probability of that happening. Copycats have always existed? Yeah, exactly.
Tweets and things, but to say that that is comparable to murdering somebody, there's just no comparison, and so there's no evidence for it. I mean, I guess what they would say is, well, wait and see. But what it saes to me is that there's a lot of people in the intelligence community that don't know how to read the internet and don't understand irony and don't understand sarcasm and don't understand shit posting, and so they take it at face value and say, wow, there's this army of V for Vendetta masks that are just.
I do think that it is emboldening for anybody who would be willing to commit a terrorist act to see that the act is viewed as being a moral good. I think that many terrorists, like a lot of the people that blow themselves up and, September 11th, these people are going to heaven in their mind, right? They're the heroes of the story. Like when they blow up a building full of a bunch of innocent people and they kill everybody, they're doing it because they're in the right. So I think that like saying that there's no moral mandate and like there's no moral appeal to this is like, I think it's naive. It's the greater good. Yeah, exactly. Not always. Well, nothing's always. But I'm saying that like, if you think about it based off of probabilities, I think it's very reasonable to assume that to be the case.
Going to come out in force with pitchforks and come after us, and that really seems to be what they're the manner in which they're responding. It's a sort of moral panic I think we're seeing right now, and my hope is that people will look at more and more of the evidence come out, not just in the form of the manifesto but the trial that's going to happen, and say, hey, there's much more to this story than that some guy snapped and just went crazy or whatever.
Yeah, I think there's
I don't really know if there's that much more to it. I feel like as soon as people can get past like this individual guy and like talk about actual healthcare, the better. Because I think that the amount of conversation that's surrounding Luigi is extremely toxic. And I don't think that, again, there are a lot of young people that support Luigi. But if you look at the general demographics, and even young people, it is a minority. 40% is a minority. But that doesn't mean that there aren't 60 people that think it's bad. And if you look at the overall population, this is a very fringe opinion, right? It's like an 17% people think it's good. And I feel like a lot of them might just be saying that, right? It's hard to say. So I don't think that the focus around him is positive.
Big conversation to be had, too, around the idea of violence. I think that, of course, we know shooting someone in the head or in the body, wherever he was shot, that's violence. That's, you're shooting someone. People think of fist fighting and those kind of actions. Assassinations, that's violence. But they don't use that term when they think about policies that lead to people dying and healthcare and medicine prices that result in people dying or people claiming that effectively is a form of violence. You might not be.
It is. He's right. He's totally right. Because it's not. It's indirect violence. And so, like, It's kind of like if you sell a person a gun and then you know the person is going to use the gun to kill somebody, did you kill that person? Indirectly, yes. Directly, no. Did you kill someone? The answer is no, you didn't. But you enabled it to happen. And I think the problem is that a lot of these policies have happened over the years, and I don't think that the public feels like they are vindicated and taken care of. And so when they see somebody who... It's basically like if the world is unfair and people perceive unfairness, they're going to do things that are bad. And I think that's why Luigi happened. It's because people perceive unfairness and they say, this is bullshit, and I have to do something about it. Does that apply, in your opinion, to manufacturers? Wouldn't that logic be a slippery slope? I think that any of that logic is a slippery slope, but I think that at some point you have to legally define it somewhere. And I think in some cases where decisions are made to make more profit at the expense of other people's lives, there needs to be, and this is a problem with, like, in general, like corporate companies, the corporate veil, basically, which is like it protects an individual from accountability from the actions of a corporation. I think that this actually enables a lot of bad behavior. And I think that we should get rid of a lot of that. And basically, if you do a bad thing and a corporation acts in a bad way that's harmful and hurts people and causes people to die, I think that individual people need to be held accountable for that. And there needs to be an investigation into why it happened, and somebody needs to get in trouble. Yeah, like that's it, right? I mean, you can't have something bad like this happen and then somebody just... And also, sometimes mistakes happen, right? And so I'm not saying every single time, but I think that in a lot of cases, they're not mistakes. And so that already exists. Well, it's clearly not enough.
Being strangled to death, but you would have otherwise lived if it wasn't for their policies.
Yeah, and when you look at the urgency of the discussion around this, let's be frank, one person who died, again, there has been no other attempt to kill anybody anywhere else, no evidence of a copycat attack. It's hard to look at that and say there's
I don't
any other...
think that this argument is very good, because just saying that it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean that it won't happen. I think that people become inspired by the Unabomber. I think actually Luigi himself is a good example of that. Luigi was a fan of the Unabomber, and he read the Unabomber's book, Ted Kaczynski. So just because it hasn't happened in like this immediate period of time doesn't mean that it won't inspire people in the future.
Reason for that than that he was a really rich, powerful person, and he's still benefiting from that status even in death, while literally tens of thousands of people die from having to ration insulin, for just one example, something that costs pennies on the dollar to manufacture. It's a disgrace. What do you even say to that? And the fact that the people in sort of the corporate media can't understand why somebody would be driven to rage over that, whether or not you support what he did, not understand that mindset.
Yeah, people are furious about that. Absolutely. Yeah, of course. And I'd like to know how you see Luigi as a terrorist and not these companies. Well, because the companies don't have a political goal. It's the same reason why a bank robber isn't a terrorist. So, like, being a murderer and being a terrorist, it's not like being a terrorist is really that much worse, right? It's just a different distinction for another word. Like, the words, like, I think that there's, like, always an emotional weight behind words. And I think that that emotional weight carries, like, a tier list behind it. And that's why people are getting caught up with the word. If somebody's a murderer or if somebody's a terrorist and they're terrorizing people by murdering them, I feel like this is basically the same. Like, I don't think it's really a big difference in terms of, like, the moral evil behind it, right? But I'm just saying, like, just based off of the definition, it's really not that complicated. You're defining your own words here? No, I'm actually not. You can look it up in the dictionary and see for yourself. It's about the intent. Yeah, that's all. It's just about the intent behind it. So why make the distinction? Well, because each word, in order to understand why a person does something, you have to use words that most accurately describe the reason why they did it. It's very simple. Yeah, it's a useless word in my opinion. terrorism is a useless word. Man, I've really thought that this topic has really brought out some of the most retarded people. And I think that the reason why is that you have a convergence of a number of different things. I think that, like, one big point of it is that people that think like this generally don't understand any form of second-order effects. And so, like, people view this as just happening in, like, its own independent world, and it will never, like, be paralleled anywhere. And I think that it really attracts a lot of, especially young people that are, like, naive, super idealistic, and they don't really have, like, a very good grasp on, like, any sort of effect beyond what they're immediately doing. And so I that's why I think that, like, because I've talked about this a number of times, and it's always been a lot of really, really stupid people that disagree and, like, argue. Yeah, it's been probably I would say this issue has probably been one of the biggest retard issues that I've had to deal with. Yeah, at least recently.
Like, wow, they're really out of touch. They don't get it.
Yeah, they never will get it, but it's okay.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see our full, uncut interview with Ken, where we break down the manifesto sentence by sentence and discuss everything under the sun, go to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/channel5. As many of you know, we are totally independent and mostly crowdfunded. So if you'd like to support us and see some uncensored, exclusive content, head on over. I'll put the link also in the description and bio. Thanks.
Channel 5 live worldwide, Hollywood and Vine. Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News. Channel 55. We don't fuck with costers. And 5 is the best number.
I could charge you $200, for this video alone. I said a lot of things.
I could charge you $200 too.
You can't. You know why? You know you can't?
Why?
I'm a part of Lyrical Lemonade, which is a contract company. I said 4 things that are copyrighted. I'm under them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know Cole?
Cole?
Yeah.
Cole Bennett?
Yeah.
He actually has 3 videos of mine on YouTube.
Damn, so you got a lot of shit going on.
This is a reminder that we also have a lot of shit going on. And one particular new project that we're very excited about. It's called Canal 5 con Andrés Callahan. Some of you may have seen our coverage of gentrification in Mexico City, or sex tourism in Tijuana, and got the inkling that Channel 5 was expanding its operations to the Spanish-speaking world.
Yeah.
Well, Dios mío, you're goddamn right. And we've taken things a step further and hired an actual team of voice actors to overdub all the classic Channel 5 videos. So you can watch classics like Connecticut Kia Boys,
cualquier destornillador, cualquier cable USB y consigue el auto que quieras.
That was a good video.
Coster,
that was a great video.
En la 55.
The Hoff Twins.
Oye, este también es mi barrio, puedo hacer esto, esta es mi casa. Sigue grabando, negro.
And even more recent videos like West Virginia Snake Church.
Sí, su nombre es Jesús.
The Snake Church.
All in Spanish. But we need some help getting our new channel off the ground. So if you guys don't mind, head over, give us a sub, a comment, or a like. Thanks so much. I'll leave a link in the pinned comment in the description along with the others. Have a great Christmas.
Canal 5 en vivo en todo el mundo, Hollywood y Viña.
Que se joda la autoridad. Noticias del Canal 5.
Canal 55. No jodemos con casters. Y 5 es el mejor número.
Good one. Yeah. Well, honestly, I love Channel 5. I totally support them. You know, make sure to give them a sub, a like, etc. I totally support this. I think this is a really, really good video. And I think also, like, the component about, like, what that one guy said is that I think everybody agrees with Luigi besides the murderer. Yeah, like, that's the contentious part. But it's really not even the point. I feel like, yeah, for a lot of people, everybody sees this and they're like, yeah, this is bad. It's terrible. And Channel 5, as always, W Channel 5, yeah, it's great. And at least you don't have factions like Luigi sympathizers. I mean, there's going to always be people that are like that, but it's not really worth taking seriously or getting upset about that, etc. And great content. Yeah, I think it is great content. And I think also talking to these individual people, especially like this guy, not him, like this guy here. I think that, like, his story is, like, really, really, it's endearing for a lot of people. And I think also it's not endearing, it's relatable. And I think that's the reason why people like these videos. It's because you take a person like this and you humanize them and you listen to what they're saying. And in a lot of cases, it does make sense. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Well, if you ever need a fight, well, there's a just point at you.
Sorry, I had it on mute because of that beeping. So we did about half the missions on Hoth or so, maybe more. So we're almost done with Hoth, actually. And listened to several videos. We're at 2 hours. I'm doing 2 hours nowadays because I upload during the day. And I switched over to Google Fiber, which is pretty fast. It turns out that Spectrum claimed that I had a 200 megabit speed, but I had no more than 20 megabits during the entire time. All these years, I've been at 20 megabits, and none of those years did they ever really investigate or tell me that. You are fit for duty. Return to your post. I thought it was supposed to be 20 because that's the only thing that would come up. And it turned out that I just got scammed. Got scammed pretty bad. And so I'm glad I turned in Spectrum. And I got Google. Google's been working like a dream. It's only $30.
Greetings.
So I'll be
you
saving
are cleared from the following travel
$50.
routes.
Be saving $50 a month because of that. And that helps a whole lot. Because all I do is the internet. I don't do anything else. And they had... That equipment for Spectrum was designed for cable and things like that most people don't even bother with anymore. But anyway, I'm going to end the video and continue the adventure after a while. Take a break, do some work, and go from there. Thanks for watching. All right, and take care.